This is the Ohio AgNet from the Voice you know at the News You Trust studios, sponsored by BASF and Veltima Fungicide, the proven #1 for the toughest corn diseases with long-lasting residual when you need to be confident your fungicide will perform. I'm Ty Higgins. How are crops holding up across the state? Plans are set for the 2026 Northwest Agronomic Field Day, and the heat wave is on this week. This morning's news feed is delivered by Ebert's Field Seeds, proven local seed performance for Ohio farmers. It's time to start planting Ebert's. Call 937-473-2521 or visit online at ebertsseeds.com. Ohio farmers continued wheat harvest and saw most crops up and growing. Though recent showers limited field work, the latest Ohio Crop Progress Report is sponsored by Relentless Ag. Every acre at peak performance. Learn more at relentlessag.com. Crop development is near average, and improved soil moisture is supporting generally good conditions. USDA reports there were 4.2 days suitable for fieldwork for the week ending June 28th. Corn silking has reached 1%, following right along with the 1% average. Ohio corn condition rated 62% good to excellent, with 54% good and 8% excellent. Soybean emergence reached 98%, ahead of last week's 94% and the 95% 5-year average. Soybean blooming has reached 3%, that's just behind the 5% average. Ohio soybean conditions rated at 57% good to excellent, 50% good, 7% excellent. Winter wheat now 7% harvested, which is behind the 15% 5-year average. Ohio wheat conditions rated 67% good to excellent, with 59% good and 8% excellent. You can read the entire report online now at ohioagnet.com. Plans have been set for the 2026 Northwest Agronomic Field Day. Brianna Smith has the details.
Ohio farmers looking to sharpen their crop management strategies will have an opportunity to do just that at the 2026 Northwest Agronomic Field Day on Thursday, July 23rd. The event will take place at the Ohio State University Northwest Agricultural Research Station near Custer and will feature the latest research from OSU Extension specialists. Topics on this year's agenda include dialing in corn and soybean planting depth, evaluating soybean seed treatments, managing residual soil nitrogen, comparing drone and traditional sprayer applications for disease management, and examining the impact of swine manure on soil health and corn yields. Registration begins at 8:30 a.m. with educational sessions starting at 9 a.m. A complimentary lunch is sponsored by the Ohio Soybean Council and will follow at noon. Those interested in attending are encouraged to RSVP at go.osu.edu/NW26. For more information, visit ohioagnet.com. Reporting for Ohio's Country Journal and Ohio AgNet, I'm Brianna Smith.
Let's get a check of the forecast now, brought to you by Seed Genetics Direct, the #1 fastest growing and largest Ohio-based independent seed company. Here's Ryan Martin.
I don't have anything different for you. If you were hoping to hear me turn on that global air conditioning unit, it's not going to happen here. We are very warm, very humid for the balance of today, tomorrow, and Thursday. What I can give you is some intel as to how the week finishes, your holiday weekend, and early next week. The heat doesn't necessarily ease, but we see a breakdown of the ridge just a little bit in amplitude, so that the active precipitation that's going around the top of this hot dome through Wisconsin, southern Minnesota, and into the northern Great Lakes, that slides southward for Friday, Saturday, Sunday. We have hit and miss scattered showers and thunderstorms coming through. It's still going to be muggy, but there is a little bit of moisture around. Same story to a lesser scale Monday, Tuesday of next week. Combined over those 5 days, I think we can see a quarter to maybe 1 inch with 80% coverage. I'm Ryan Martin.
Thank you, Ryan. What should you be thinking about when it comes to C to N ratios in your cover crops? With some of the answers, here's Dusty Sonnenberg.
Joining me today is David Kleinschmidt with Progressive Agronomy Consulting. David, let's talk about the importance of cover crops and the right carbon to nitrogen ratio.
Yeah, that's something I feel like that a lot of people are unfamiliar with. When you start talking about carbon to nitrogen ratios, farmers kind of get glassy-eyed and really don't understand that a lot. Without some pictures, it's really hard to visualize. talking with people that do compost, they understand it very well because they know, we got to balance this carbon to nitrogen ratio of whatever feedstock we're putting to that compost to break it down and make basically a topsoil type amendment with that and to feed the microbes. And that's basically what we're looking at when we're talking about carbon to nitrogen ratios of our cover crops in front of cash crops. We want them to complement our cash crop and not compete with them. So we want a lower carbon to nitrogen ratio cover crop ahead of corn because corn requires a lot of nitrogen. If we're planting like a cereal rye, triticale, barley, wheat, any of the grass species out there, annual ryegrass, they're going to use a lot of nitrogen and they're going to tie up nitrogen the more mature and the more lignified they get. Whereas if you have a clover, vetches, the brassicas even, things of those nature, they are a low carbon to nitrogen cover crop. It's kind of like thinking about our grass on our lawns that we mow every week. We keep them very vegetative and the grass clippings just kind of decompose really quickly. And that's what those low carbon to nitrogen biomass cover crops do, is they decompose quickly, mineralize out those nutrients, and don't tie it up and don't inhibit the corn as much.
My guest today is David Kleinschmidt with Progressive Agronomy Consulting. Reporting for the Ohio AgNet, I'm Dusty Sonnenberg.
Thank you, Dusty. Ohio AgNet's Feeding Farmers is now statewide. Winner's going to be chosen for a visit from Ohio AgNet with free lunch for your farm family and crew. Check out ohioagnet.com/feedingfarmers to get entered, and hopefully we'll be at your farm this summer. Brought to you by Ag Revolution, Paradise Energy Solutions, Timpte Trailers in Sydney, and Ohio AgNet. Legislation being considered in Washington right now could impact farmers, diesel prices, and biodiesel demand. Hear more about it coming up next as the Ohio AgNet continues.
Looking for heavy equipment but don't know where to buy? Purple Wave Auction has you covered. Always online and always no reserve. It's your destination for construction or ag equipment ready to work. We even sell semis, trailers, and fleet equipment for your operation. Best part? It's free to join. Head to purplewave.com. That's purplewave.com. Sign up for a free account and start bidding today. Purple Wave Auction, the easiest and most straightforward way to buy and sell equipment.
Be aware, ticks are there. As you head outdoors, remember to avoid tall grass, wear light-colored full-coverage clothing, and use EPA-registered repellent. Be sure to thoroughly check for ticks after you head in for the day. If you find any ticks, remove them carefully with tweezers and watch for symptoms such as fever, headache, or rash. For more information on ticks and tick bite prevention, head over to ohio.gov/ticks.
Welcome back to the Ohio AgNet. I'm Ty Higgins. The Strengthening Economic and Energy Development Act, otherwise known as the SEED Act, aims to reinstate the $1 per gallon biodiesel tax credit and extend the Section 40A biodiesel tax credit, which expired in 24 through 2029. Gary Hogeveen is Executive Vice President of Pilot Company, our guest for today's featured audio. Gary, thanks for being here.
Thank you for the invitation.
So let's start with the impact for Ohio. For Ohio farmers who grow soybeans and other feedstocks for biodiesel, what does the expiration of the 40A blenders tax credit actually mean day to day, and why does reinstating it through the SEED Act matter for the folks listening and watching right now?
The 40A tax credit is a really important policy for the Ohio farmers. There's no question about it, particularly the soybean farmers. But I don't need to tell you the two biggest crops in Ohio, soybeans and corn. And this will absolutely help both farmers. As you also know, most farmers rotate crops. So one year they're corn, one year they're soybeans. Soybeans for years have been supported by this policy for more than 20 years. And it was historically something that provided a floor for prices and demand for soybeans across the country. Unfortunately, in 2024, this policy expired, and the replacement policy didn't do nearly as good a job in supporting the soybean production for this country. And so we've had to rely on places like China to purchase American soybeans and soybeans from Ohio. We don't believe that's the best interest of our farmers. And we think with the 40A tax policy, that would be solved just like it was for 20 years, and it worked great. But not just for farmers, Ty, also for the fleets, the trucking fleets of Ohio. We serve over 80,000 fleets across the country, probably thousands of them there, residents in Ohio. They are having a tough time right now because their fuel prices are higher. And their two largest cost pieces of their business are employees and fuel. So for the fleets, they are struggling. But then, as you mentioned, the families themselves in Ohio, nearly all economic products travel over the highways, certainly over the last mile being delivered to stores and restaurants and to homes themselves. But 80% roughly travel long haul over trucks across the interstates of this country and through Ohio. So all of the economic dynamism that happens because of the families of Ohio and the rest of the nation are hurt as well. So in our mind, this 40A is great for the farmers, the fleets, and the families of Ohio.
How much savings from the $1 per gallon 40A biodiesel tax credit would actually be passed downstream to consumers? For a trucking fleet, farm operation, family filling up at the pump, what kind of cost relief would this look like?
We believe in our calculations that across the country, nearly $2 billion of higher diesel prices have been in effect per year since the expiration of this policy in 2024. So right there, you can do the math. $2 billion is a lot of money. And we believe that the comparison of the current tax policy to the old tax policy that we're trying to get back, i.e. the 40A tax policy, the vast majority of the tax credit in 40A gets passed along ultimately directly to consumers because of the way that the policy works. It happens closer to the consumer than the current policy, which isn't working as well, which is applied closer to the producer. So the net effect all the way to the families of Ohio is much better in 40A than it is in the current tax policy. And we see roughly half of the value in the current policy as the better 40A policy in our mind. So roughly it gets twice as better to go to 40A.
Gary Hogeveen is Executive Vice President of Pilot Company. You can watch our full conversation right now on Ohio AgNet TV on YouTube. Back with a check of markets and analysis next here on the Ohio AgNet.
The way farmers get their information is expanding, and now there's a new dimension of farm news for the Buckeye State. Ohio AgNet TV. Learn from other farmers, see products and practices in action, and stay connected to what is happening both locally and nationally. Plus, watch expanded video coverage throughout the growing season and beyond with regular updates from the field and stories that highlight the people, issues, and innovations driving Ohio agriculture. Don't miss a moment. Subscribe now on YouTube by searching Ohio AgNet TV, where Ohio agriculture comes to life.
Ohio farmers, we know summer means long days in the field and plenty of work still to do. And the Ohio AgNet wants to bring lunch to your farm. The Feeding Farmers contest is back this summer, and we'll be choosing farms across Ohio for a visit from the Ohio AgNet, along with free lunch for your farm, family, and crew. Get entered today at ohioagnet.com/feedingfarmers. Feeding Farmers is brought to you by Ag Revolution, Paradise Energy Solutions, Tempty, and the Ohio AgNet.
Welcome back to the Ohio AgNet. I'm Ty Higgins, and this morning's market analysis is brought to you by Louis Dreyfus Company. Excited to bring a brand new soybean crush facility to Upper Sandusky. Learn more about marketing your soybeans with LDC at 574-566-2113. Here's Ryan Martin.
Grain markets finished weaker yesterday, led by significant downturns, double-digit losses in both corn and soybeans. The key word of the day for Monday was liquidation. It dominated the trade yesterday morning right on into the close. I think some of that liquidation was due to risk being pared back in these markets ahead of what could be an explosive USDA report today. But there's also still a need to liquidate remaining July contracts. As of yesterday midday, open interest in July corn still was sitting at 70,000 contracts. You put that together with eroding medium-term U.S. central weather problems or threats. Read between the lines, that is, hey, there's not much of a problem brewing for Iowa corn right now. And you can look at that in terms of the heat that's building here and say, well, move to Ohio, move to Indiana. Look, the warm air is really going to help corn grow here the next few days. I'm Ryan Martin.
Thank you, Ryan. Let's get a check of the markets overnight. Corn for July, a penny and a quarter to the plus side at 403 and a quarter. September, 411 and a half, up a penny and a quarter. And corn for December, a penny and a quarter better at 431 and a quarter. Soybeans for July up by 3 points at 1111 and 3/4. August up 2 and a quarter at 1121 and a half. And beans for November, 1141 and a half, up by 2.5 cents. No change for July wheat, 569 and a half. September up 3/4 at 580 $580.5, and December wheat down a quarter penny at $5.96 3/4. Live cattle for June, $257.40 down a nickel. August down $2.25 yesterday at $243.57. The feeder cattle contract for September, $365.75 down $192. October down $167 at $362.92. July lean hogs, $93.82 up 90. The August up 70 at $97.27. For the Ohio AgNet, I'm Ty Higgins reporting.